The company in question represent assets of over, I think it's 160 or 180 billion dollars. They have been carrying out development within China, and this is one of their first ventures outside of China, I believe it is. And even if it is not, nobody is going to invest a couple $100 million in a project and have it engineered in such a way that if a hurricane comes, it is going to blow away. Nobody is going to, for themselves, invest in a project like this and don't come up with ideas of how are we going to manage sewage. But then you're also then saying the government is going to give a permit for somebody to run their sewage lines straight into the pond, straight into the laguna, into the beach. The people would then be polluting the very beach that their customers would want to use. And I'm saying the fear that people have been instilling in others and trying to put government on the defense because, ooh, the government is bad. Can you imagine what they're doing? Westin, as I said, was built very close to the beach, and they have a sewage plant. Maho has a sewage plant. Pelican, Flamingo, all of them have sewage plants. The airport has its own sewage plant. And so we can go down the line, and this is what would be expected there as well. Oh, the Chinese are going to bring Chinese people to build. Absolutely not. In the discussions that we have had, we made it quite clear that just like the case of, for instance, a Westin, that the Chinese developers, and it would even be recommended to some extent that no local company would want to probably take on the first line of responsibility to guarantee a safe, sound, and proper construction of such a massive project. So, yes, if they want to bring their main contractor in, whether it's from China, from Malaysia, from Singapore, Japan, or the United States, that is their choice. But in terms of the workers are in abundance on St. Martin. They have built the Westin, they have built Puerto Cupocoy, they have built Flamingo, they have built all of the major projects on St. Martin, so there's absolutely no need. So what does that translate into construction work? For 2 years, local construction companies, local truckers, small truck operators will be involved, excavators, loaders. The impression, again, would be created that a massive cargo ship will come from China filled with several thousand Chinese construction workers, filled with cranes, filled with backhoes, filled with loaders, and they are going to quarantine an area down Bel Air, and they will take over St. Martin. And after that, after they finish construction, they're going to be moving into looking for employment at Chinese supermarkets, Chinese groceries, and probably, who knows, all over the island. That is a malicious impression created to scare everybody off and make everybody in St. Martin feel that, who that government that is there, boy, they're doing bad things for this country. Interesting would be that if the announcement comes that because of the protest that others are planning to engage on, that these people say, you know what, Antigua is not too far away from St. Martin, or St. Kitts is not too far away from St. Martin. And they seem to be very much receptive to business people. So let's take our investment there, let's take our plan there, and then we get the other side of the coin. Oh, you see, the government allowed such a big project to get away from them, and now we are taking backseat. All of that business could have come to St. Martin. When I say all of that business, it is more than just the construction of a hotel. The plan is actually establishing a China Caribbean hub in St. Martin. So by it is the China Caribbean hub in St. Martin. The Chinese, and when we say the Chinese, it is not China. It is a company owned by, it's a public-private partnership between the government of China and local Chinese business people. They have been looking for a hub where they can springboard from and operate from. By establishing it in St. Martin that has good air connections and a good port, they figured, well, by coming to St. Martin, we would be able to set up shop in St. Martin and from there organize business conferences, organize conventions, bring groups to St. Martin. And if you have a company that wants to invite their regional representatives, whether it's as far from Santo Domingo, Puerto Rico, Miami, Trinidad, Colombia, because China is on the opposite side of the world where you have to travel hours to get to this part of the world. So by coming and having your center here, it is easier to do business with the rest of this part of the region and the world. So again, what it offers is a conference center, convention center, business centers, and the apartments that the minister mentioned. We have so many developments where, again, if you take West End, for instance, they have the hotel section and they have the condo section. We have timeshare properties on St. Martin that some of the rooms are hotel rooms and some of them are apartments owned by persons. And when they are not utilizing it because they're not coming to live in St. Martin, but by having your own unit at the, as part of, let's say, the hotel, when you as the owner or your business associates come to St. Martin, they have somewhere, and when it is not in use, it becomes part of the rental pool, which is a normal business practice in the travel industry. The people who will be buying them are not the Chinese people who are coming here to look for a job in a supermarket. These are wealthy business people who are coming and making an investment in such a unit. Again, the impression might be created or would want to be created as if we are building apartments all over St. Martin and we are luring Chinese people who are coming here to take the jobs probably from civil servants, from GB workers, from TLM workers, from hospital workers, and the sorts. Absolutely not. That is not the case. So are we allowing something to be done at random? No, absolutely not. One of the issues that was brought up, or people, concerns on Facebook is, we will be overrun by 1 million tourists. I guess that one needs clarification, and Minister Gibson, in his presentation, I think may have fell short in clarifying the 1 million tourists. In discussions with them one day, they have indicated that the product that they are bringing to St. Martin will enhance our own tourism product and expand on our tourism base. And the developer said, he said, are you aware that China has, the tourism is growing in China, not in the sense of the amount of tourists that come to China only, but the amount of Chinese tourists that are traveling out to the rest of the world. And he then said, we have over 100 million Chinese tourists that travel all over the world. And I said, oh, please, we don't need 100 million. 1 million would do us quite fine. And then they said, we will work along with St. Martin once we finalize our project in bringing 1 million tourists to St. Martin, and we think we can do that within a 10-year span. So if we would calculate what 1 million tourists break down over a 10-year span would be, we would then calculate the kind of tourism, the kind of tourist it would add to our tourism market. The hub function, the China-Caribbean hub function that St. Martin would play in all of this, I would add a new dimension. We keep hearing we need to add more airlift, we need to diversify our tourism product, we need to look for year-round markets. Well, what this creates is an opportunity for wide bodies, the Dreamliners, to load up with people in China, destination Caribbean. But not that the plane would be flying like Liat from one Caribbean destination to another. It will be simply a long stretch from China with a stopover somewhere else, whether it's in New York or whatnot, and then land in St. Martin. All the tourists, all the people that come off would be a blend of people who are here for business purposes, people who are here for recreation, tourism thing. Everybody is, what happens when Cuba opens up? Cuba is going to compete. Now St. Martin is trying to open up a new market, and then we, rather than embrace it, try to throw rocks at it simply because there's an election and there's a fear at the side of the opposition that if government pulls it off, it will be too good for the government and too good for St. Martin. So when that plane lands, it is not necessarily so that if there are 400 or 500 people on board of such a large airline, that every one of them is going to check in to the hotel. There will be people, just like we have when American Airlines come here. There are people going to St. Bart's. There are people going to Anguilla. There are people going to Nevis. That is what this will be as well. Again, as I said, advantages, we will create 200 jobs during construction. It will take some 2 years to construct. During that 2 years, working with institutions like the NEPA, a training program can and will be set up in order to ensure that the workers needed for such a project would be there, would be available. Truckers would be making money, construction companies, SZV will be making extra monies with premiums that will be paid, taxes that these employees would be paid, etc., etc., etc. I know we started a bit late. It is almost 11, so I will allow now for questions to not only myself but the other ministers, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your remarks, Prime Minister Marlin. The floor is now open for questions from members of the media. Ms. Shaw, you have the first question.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, ministers. My question is to Minister Myers. You made your presentation about the land over the bank. If I understand you correctly, you said that this started since 2014. I'm kind of curious for you to explain to me why within the 9 months period this project was not completed, and only during this election period, like you mentioned, 50 lots were assigned, and if there is an infrastructure plan already in place so that you can put infrastructure there so that the people who gets this land would have access to the land. Another part of the same question would be, you said there were over 300 applicants. Can you tell me how the selection process was made to give these people the land? Out of the 300, how did you select the 50 persons?
Okay. The first part of your question, since 2014, somewhere in 2014, I can't give you an exact date, but the property was then transferred to the government of St. Martin. From since the transfer of the property, there's been some court cases. As I indicated, sometime last year, the ministry got the assignment to start with inventory. Again, there is an unbuilt area and there's a built area. The built area, a lot of illegal construction took place there, and the inspection department of the ministry started with an inventory and so forth, gathered the information. That information was part of the terms of reference. So the process, again, those things take time, and it started, it continued, and when I came in as Minister of Romy in December, we just continued with the process. It was one of the priorities. We said, listen, this is something that needs to get done. So why it took so long before, I cannot answer that question. I know when I came in, it was one of the things them on the transitional document, and we said, this is something we will give priority to. The second part of your question was with the infrastructure. Once we have the subdivision in place, that is now finalized, there is indicated the projected roads. A small mini excavator went up and made a track of where the projected roads would be to just get a feel when they was doing the surveying and so forth. The terms of reference has been prepared. It just needs to be translated in an advice and submitted to my person for to present to the Council of Ministers for approval. But the terms of reference, that is in place, and that now has to go on bid to put the infrastructure in place. In terms of who gets what, I indicated to the ministry there is no policy in place. The long-standing, I would say, policy then is the minister determines. It has always been so. I have indicated to the ministry to at least put a policy in place. If it gets shut down here, at least the ministry did its work. Put a policy in place how to go about that. That's number one. Number two, the target group was young professionals. I asked the ministry to provide me with a list going back several years of all individuals that requested land in long lease. They gave me a list from January to August of 2016. They said they couldn't go further back, something with the system and thing, but they gave me a list from January to August 2016, and I said in that list you had persons who requested land, some from the late 90s, the early 2000s, and so forth. And basically going through that list, we look at one of the issues then if the person already owns property. Again, the preference is young professionals who does not own property. And again, it's an overall plan. You cannot please everyone. It's a limited amount of lots. As I indicated, together with the Housing Foundation and APS, there is opportunities available for young professionals to own their own homes, and that's all part of the package moving forward.
Thank you, Minister, for not answering the question directly. I turn to the Prime Minister. I don't know if you would want to answer this question or if you want to flip-flop it back to the Minister of Romy. Just before the former government, the GUMS cabinet left office, the former Minister of Romy dedicated a piece of land for the Chamber of Commerce where he is the director of that establishment. Can you tell us what happened? Did government overturn that? Where are we? What do we have in our hand as government regarding this land that was assigned to the Chamber of Commerce?
Thank you, Bibi. The question actually should be directed to the Minister of Vromi, but I don't want to pass the buck, and for one main reason. I am one who have spoken out on a radio program when I made mention of what was done. To date, there doesn't seem to be clarity respective to the area where Le Quebec is located. You're getting from within government, they're saying, yes, that should not have been included, and if it was included, probably it may have been a mistake and that kind of thing. Shortly after I made my statement on the radio, one of the things that I did, the following day, I think I was on another program, or 2 days after, I said, before the statement from the chamber, that I must make a correction that actually it is not for 1 guilder, it was for 1 guilder for a period, and then after that, it would be, I think, 2 guilders, the long lease. What are facts, however, based on what I have seen, and I never made a public statement after that because of traveling to Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic, for the inauguration of the president and whatnot, and got back and got busy with other stuff. But what are 2 facts? One, the deed, not the deed, the resolution to grant the land to the chamber was signed by the Prime Minister Marcel Gomes. Marcel Gomes, whether he was in capacity as Minister of Romi then or acting minister, I'm not too sure, but the documents are there. Marcel Gomes is who signed the resolution. The resolution is then taken to the notary to transfer the land. That was done on the 18th of November, the day before Minister Claret Connor was leaving office and was knowingly going back to the chamber as director. In the meantime, following their statement, their release, and this whole discussion, I've received a letter from the chamber saying that they did not request all of the land. All they have requested was 1 parcel of land to build an office. And it is government who offered them the entire 10,000 or 10,800 square meters to develop a business, what was a business center? To develop something that had to do with developing like a business center. So the idea would be that the Chamber of Commerce would now sort of subdivide this property and either lease it to business owners or build units. I'm not too sure. The documents are there to peruse. What is also interesting is the concept of the Business Development Center is an agreement between government and the chamber, and therefore required a national decree. The draft national decree was sent to the governor for signing. The governor sent it back. The governor sent it back stating that there is a motion adopted by a majority in Parliament, and in the resolution, in that motion, the majority in Parliament took a decision to instruct the government not to do certain things because they no longer had the support of a majority and therefore should not do a number of things. Some of them included issuing of land in long lease at the Kimsha Beach, which in the meantime had been overturned, and there is a court case, I think, that was started there, and among them also was not to issue any land along the Ring Road, which would be this land. The governor said, therefore, because of this, this becomes a controversial issue, and he will not sign it and send it back. So what you have is, in essence, a process that has not been completed. Because the entire thing was, I'm giving you land in long lease for 1 guilder in order to develop based on a development agreement, but that development agreement has not been signed between government and the chamber. So technically, the chamber has acquired the land without the agreement to develop in accordance to the intention government gave them the land. The chamber, therefore, in their letter is saying, government, if you have changed your mind, tell us, and then we would know what to do. But it is not us who requested the 10,000 square meters. It is you, government, who offered it to us. So the director of the chamber today is saying, I didn't ask for it. The chamber, well, the director didn't ask, it's the chamber, I guess via the president of the chamber, whoever, but the chamber asked, and now today the chamber is saying, we only asked for a parcel of land to build an office for the chamber. You offered us the 10,000 square meters. There is an agreement, a draft agreement that we are prepared to adhere to, but you never signed the draft agreement with us. So therefore, there is no agreement because there is no signature. So in that sense, you know, I can say, well, hey, it's the Minister of Vromi that should or would have had to address it. But because I am the one who made statements in a different context about these things that were done just before election, I am now responding to your question.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister, for the clarity. I turn to Minister Lee. Minister Lee, I am a little bit, I don't know if to say confused, but I don't understand very well. And I'd ask you to make a clarification for me or at least shed light. Ambulance services, who normally pays for it? Is it the client, the patient, or SZV? Who is responsible? Let's say if there's an accident or somebody took in at home and they call the ambulance, who is supposed to be paying for these services?
There's different situations, depends on who the customer is. If the customer has an insurance that is valid, then that would be accepted as guarantee for payment. But for example, if you have a tourist who comes who has insurance from abroad, then the normal process should be that they pay the ambulance fee and take their receipt home and claim it back from their insurance company. So previously, many times people didn't give complete addresses, incomplete information, and for that reason, much of the outstanding amounts were never collected. By having the hospital collect it at the point of service on behalf of government, we avoid much of that lost revenue. So some of the things still need to be worked out. There's some discussions, for example, with local insurance companies, because we don't want to get into a dispute later where the insurance company says, well, that wasn't an emergency, or it was. So our position is, unless we have clarity, the client needs to pay and then get that amount refunded. Obviously, that's different for SZV patients.
Thank you for your questions. Mr. Hart, do you have any questions?
Yes. Mr. Marlin, about the investment project in Little Bay. Has the investment group been offered a tax holiday?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, thank you. A question for Mr. Myers about the preparatory resolution. I read there that there is apparently it looks at all kind of things that are desirable or not desirable, but I read somewhere that it says there's an exception for the construction height. Could you explain that?
An exception for the
Yeah.
construction? I don't understand your question.
Exemption.
Exemption?
Yeah, exemption, yes.
No.
Except for the construction height, it says literally in the resolution. Does that mean that they can build any height?
No,
No.
no,
No one?
no. There is a prevailing planning permit for the area. The planning permit indicates from the natural grade, a height of 19 meters. 19. And of course, when you excavate down, that is much larger. To give a variance on the planning permit because the provision in the AROP has expired, it's not possible to give a variance on the planning permit. So that would have to be done in a zoning plan, and hence the preparatory resolution to make that possible.
One more question, Prime Minister Marlin. I heard that there is no money available to buy furniture for the new government administration building. Is that correct or is that incorrect?
Absolutely not. Totally incorrect. The money for the furniture is there. The documents for the bidding will be sent to me anytime now for the Council of Ministers to sign off on. What we have decided in terms of the initial move, the Council of Ministers will move with the furniture that they have, particularly because of the size of their offices. You don't need, office cubicles. So the staff, the first group of persons, the ministers and their cabinets, etc., that will be moving, will move with their present furniture, but there is sufficient money reserved for the purchase of furniture. And that will go on bid anytime.
And when will you move in?
There have been lots of challenges with the completion. Technically, we can move in and operate now. If you know how it goes sometimes when someone is building a house and you have a commitment, you have a contract with where you are living, and you tell the landlord, as of the 1st of September, I am giving up the apartment. The 1st of September comes, and your own home or the new home is not totally finished, but you can move in. So technically, we can take our furniture and move into the building. There's running water, there's electricity, the sewage is connected, fiber to the building is connected, so we can operate from within the building. But it would make very little sense to move into the building and, the entire parking in front of the building, the entire appearance of the building is not yet completed. Material to complete some of the work has been ordered. I don't know if some of the things are deliberately being delayed, but there is a delay in the delivery of material, and that is why you can see, for instance, the walls went up in rapid speed, but the travertine tiles to complete it have not been delivered as yet. And you keep hearing, they're coming. Just today's Wednesday, Monday or Tuesday, I was there for an update. The front of the building, the entrance to the building looks beautiful with the black and white blend of the tiles, but the bricks that blends with the black and white tiles, they too have not yet been delivered. So it's a matter of waiting on material, but in terms of the ministers being able to move in, that can be done, whether it's this afternoon, this weekend, or next week. No, I'm saying it can be done, but there's a decision not to do it as yet because the front of the building is not yet in proper order.
Alita?
Thank you, Giselle. Good morning, ministers. Minister Myers, how much land is still left that government can give out? You mentioned in your statement some 300 applicants for government land is now with ROMI. How much land is still there available to be given out?
How much land is still
that
available?
that you can give out?
Land has not been transferred as yet.
No, I'm talking in general. You have 300 applications.
Yeah. There
much
is
land does
about
government have?
50 lots to be issued. And that is in the unbuilt area.
Mm-hmm.
From the built-up area, the subdivision plan still needs to be completed, and there will be additional lots available
Mm-hmm. Okay,
there as well.
I'm not talking about over the bank. I'm talking about in general on the
And
island.
I don't have
You
that
don't have an idea
information,
about that.
no.
Okay. On the development that's going to come in Little Bay, the planning permit that is there, that is the planning permit or the permits that are there are adoptions to the ones that were there for Barbaron, is that correct?
The existing planning permit is the one that the building permit from Barbaron was issued based on that planning permit, yes.
Okay. So when people are objecting, they're objecting to the amendments that are being made or to the whole old Barbaron project?
It depends what they're objecting to. What are they objecting to? So
Yeah, I understand, but I'm asking because this is questions that are coming from the public, and that's my job to ask them. So I'm asking that question as to, do they then object to what was there existing already, or do they also object only, or can they, I should say, can they object to only the new parts of it? Because the reason is, the old permit was there already, there was
the
no
old
exceptions
permit
to
is
it.
there already. Once a permit is issued, you have 6 weeks period to put in your objections. So the Barbaron building permit, they cannot object anymore to that.
Just the,
Just the amendments.
thank you for the clarification.